The message arrived on a cold Tuesday morning. Admiral Una Park stood in the command center of Earth's United Defense Force, watching the alien symbols appear on the giant screen. The translation software worked quickly, turning the strange letters into words she could understand. You are summoned to Convergence Prime. The Galactic Council demands your presence for integration negotiations. You have 30 standard days to arrive. Failure to appear will be considered an act of hostility. Una read the message 3 times. She was a tall woman with short black hair and eyes that revealed nothing. 20 years in the military had taught her to keep her feelings hidden. But inside, her heart was beating fast. Humanity had only discovered faster-than-light travel 5 years ago. They had met alien species just 2 years back. And now, the most powerful organization in the galaxy was calling them to a meeting. She turned to Dr. Tae-ho Kim, her chief advisor on alien matters. He was a thin man with glasses and a habit of rubbing his chin when he was thinking. Right now, he was rubbing it very hard. "What do we know about these integration negotiations?" Una asked. Tae-ho pulled up files on his tablet. The Galactic Council has ruled this part of the galaxy for over 40,000 years. 12 ancient species control everything. When a new species develops space travel, they are summoned for integration. Integration, Una repeated. That sounds friendly. It is not? Tae-ho shook his head. Every species that has been integrated has lost most of their territory, their military strength, and their independence. They become servants of the Council. Some call it partnership. Others call it slavery with extra steps. Una looked back at the screen. The message was still there, glowing softly in the dim room. Has anyone ever refused? No. Never. The Council has thousands of warships. Their technology is thousands of years ahead of ours. Refusing would be suicide. I see. For a long moment, Una said nothing. She walked to the window and looked out at the city below. Millions of people were going about their lives, unaware that their future was being decided in this room. Children were going to school. Workers were heading to their jobs. Families were eating breakfast together. All of them were counting on her to make the right choice. "Prepare a delegation," she said finally. "I will lead it myself." Tae-ho's eyes widened. "Admiral, that is dangerous. If something goes wrong, Earth will need leaders who understand what we are facing. I need to see these council members with my own eyes. I need to understand who we are dealing with." She turned back to face him. "Who else should come?" "I will come, of course. You will need someone who understands their languages and customs." Tae-ho thought for a moment. "We should also bring Captain Jisoo Han. Her ship, the Horizon's Edge, is our fastest and most advanced vessel. If we need to leave quickly, she can get us out." Una nodded. "Make the arrangements. We leave in 3 days." The news of the summons spread quickly. World leaders demanded meetings. News channels ran endless stories about what integration might mean. Some people were hopeful. Perhaps the Council would share their advanced technology. Perhaps humanity would finally take its place among the stars. But Una knew better. She had read the histories. Every species that joined the Council gave up more than they gained. The Valorian people had been forced to abandon half their home planet. The Kesith had their entire military destroyed. The Morath were forbidden from developing new weapons for 10,000 years. These were not partners. They were prisoners. On the day of departure, Una stood on the bridge of the Horizon's Edge. Captain Jisoo Han was at the controls. She was a young woman, barely 30, but she had already proven herself in 3 border conflicts. Her hands were steady on the controls, and her eyes were fixed on the stars ahead. "All systems ready, Admiral," Jisoo reported. "We can jump to hyperspace on your command." Una looked around the bridge. Tae-ho was reviewing his notes on alien customs. The crew members were at their stations, professional and focused. These were good people, Brave people. They deserved a future where they could be free. "Take us out, Captain." The ship hummed as its engines powered up. Stars stretched into lines as they entered hyperspace. Earth disappeared behind them, getting smaller and smaller until it was just another dot of light in the darkness. The journey took 12 days. 12 days of preparation, of planning, of wondering what waited for them. Taiho briefed the delegation on every council species. He taught them proper greetings, forbidden topics, and signs of respect. Yuna listened carefully and remembered everything. On the 13th day, they arrived. Convergence Prime was enormous. It was a space station the size of a small moon, floating at the meeting point of 12 different territories. Its surface was covered with towers and domes, each one representing a different species. Ships of every shape and size flew around it like insects around a hive, and surrounding the station was an armada. Hundreds of warships hung in space, their weapons pointed outward. They were massive vessels, each one bigger than anything humanity had ever built. Their hulls were decorated with symbols of the 12 council species. "They are showing us their strength," Taiho said quietly. "I noticed," Yuna replied. A transmission came through. "Human vessel, you will proceed to Docking Bay 47. Representatives will escort you to the Grand Chamber. Do not deviate from your assigned path. Do not carry weapons. Do not speak unless spoken to." Jisoo looked at Yuna. "Admiral?" The docking bay was cold. Yuna felt it the moment she stepped off the ship. Not just cold in temperature, but cold in feeling. The walls were made of dark metal. The lights were dim. Everything was designed to make visitors feel small and unwelcome. 4 alien guards waited for them. They were tall creatures with gray skin and 4 arms. Their faces had no expression. Their eyes watched every movement the humans made. "Follow," one of them said. Its voice was flat and mechanical, translated by a device on its chest. Yuna walked between the guards, with Taiho on her left and Jisoo on her right. They moved through long corridors filled with aliens of every kind. Some had scales, some had feathers. Some had no solid form at all, floating through the air like clouds of colored smoke. All of them stopped to stare at the humans. Yuna heard whispers as they passed. She did not understand the languages, but she understood the tone. Curiosity, pity, amusement. These aliens looked at humans the way a person might look at a lost child wandering into a room full of adults. The Grand Chamber was at the heart of the station. Its doors were 20 meters tall, covered with carvings that showed the history of the Council. 12 species ruling together for 40,000 years. Wars fought and won. Civilizations risen and fallen, all of it under the watchful eyes of the Council. The doors opened, and Yuna stepped inside. The chamber was circular, with seats arranged in rising levels like a stadium. Hundreds of aliens sat in those seats, representatives from worlds across the galaxy. At the center was a raised platform where the human delegation was meant to stand. And above them, on 12 high thrones, sat the council members themselves. They were ancient beings. Yuna could see it in the way they held themselves, in the weight of their stares. These were creatures who had lived for thousands of years. They had seen empires rise and fall. They had guided the fate of countless species, and now they were looking down at humanity like judges examining a criminal. One of them rose. He was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and eyes that glowed softly in the dim light. His robes were white, decorated with silver symbols. When he spoke, his voice filled the entire chamber. "I am High Arbiter Velith. I speak for the Galactic Council. You are the representatives of the species called humanity?" Yuna bowed her head slightly. "I am Admiral Yuna Park. I speak for Earth and all human territories." "Good." Velith sat back down. "Then let us begin. A screen appeared in the air before Yuna, showing page after page of text. She recognized some of the words from Taiho's lessons, but much of it was written in legal language that was hard to follow. "This is the Standard Integration Treaty," Valeth explained. "It has been offered to every new species for 38,000 years. The terms are simple and fair. You will find that accepting them will bring great benefits to your people." Another council member spoke. He was different from Valeth, shorter, heavier, with dark red skin covered in hard plates. His voice was harsh and mocking. "I am Councillor Morthax. Let me explain what the treaty means in simple terms, since your species is still learning to walk among the stars." He smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "First, you will give 60% of your territory to the Council. This space will be used for resource extraction and military bases. You may keep the rest for your own use. Second, your military will be reduced to defense-only forces. You will have no warships capable of traveling beyond your own borders. The Council will provide protection for you. Third, you will pay tribute. Each year, you will send valuable resources to the Council. Rare metals, biological materials, whatever we require. This is the price of membership. Fourth, all scientific research must be approved by Council oversight committees. You will not develop new weapons or dangerous technologies without permission." Morthax leaned forward. "In exchange, you receive the protection of the Council. No other species may attack you. You may trade with approved partners. You may travel through Council space, and you may live in peace, knowing that your place in the galaxy is secure." He spread his hands. "You see? Very generous terms. Much better than what previous species received. We are being kind to you because you are young and ignorant." Yuna listened without changing her expression. Beside her, she could feel Taiho growing tense. Behind her, she heard Jisoo take a sharp breath. She looked up at the 12 thrones, 12 ancient beings who ruled the galaxy, 12 pairs of eyes watching her, waiting for her answer. "These terms," she said slowly, "have been offered to every new species?" "Yes," Valeth replied. "And every species has accepted?" "Of course." "What other choice is there?" Yuna nodded thoughtfully. She turned to Taiho. "You have recorded everything?" "Every word," he confirmed. "Good." She turned back to the Council. "Then I request a recess of 24 hours to consider this generous offer." Morthax laughed. "Consider? What is there to consider? You accept or you face the consequences. It is very simple." But Valeth raised his hand, silencing the red-skinned counselor. His glowing eyes studied Yuna with something that might have been curiosity. "Very well, you may have your recess, but do not waste our time with delays. The Council has ruled this galaxy for 40,000 years. We have seen species much greater than yours bend the knee. You will be no different." The doors opened behind the human delegation. The guards were waiting to escort them back. Yuna bowed again. "Thank you for your patience, High Arbiter." As they walked out of the chamber, Taiho leaned close to her. "What are you planning? We cannot accept these terms, but we also cannot refuse them." Yuna said nothing until they were back on the horizon's edge, behind closed doors. Then she smiled, a small smile, but a real one. "We are going to do something that has not been done in 38,000 years, she said. "We are going to say no." Taiho stared at her. "They will destroy us." "Maybe." Yuna looked out the window at the massive station and the warships surrounding it. "Or maybe we will show them something they have forgotten. That power is not the only thing that matters, that some things are worth more than survival." She turned to face her team. "Get some rest. Tomorrow, we make history." Yuna straightened her uniform. Her face was calm. Her voice was steady. Whatever waited for them inside that station, she would face it with dignity. Take us in, Captain. Let us see what the masters of the galaxy have to say. The horizon's edge moved forward, a tiny ship surrounded by giants. But inside that tiny ship were humans. And humans had never been good at knowing their place. The grand chamber was even more crowded on the second day. Word had spread through the station that a new species was giving their answer to the council. Aliens from dozens of worlds had come to watch. They filled every seat, standing in the aisles, pressing against the walls. Everyone wanted to see another young race submit to the ancient order. Yuna walked through the massive doors with her head held high. Taiho was beside her, his tablet ready to record everything. Jisoo remained on the ship, engines warm just in case. The 12 council members sat on their thrones, looking down with the confidence of beings who had never been challenged. High Arbiter Velith raised his hand for silence. The chamber grew quiet. "Admiral Park," Velith said, "you have had your time to consider. The Galactic Council awaits your answer. Do you accept the Standard Integration Treaty?" Yuna looked around the chamber. Hundreds of alien eyes were watching her. Some looked bored. They had seen this ceremony many times before. Others looked curious about the strange new species called humans. A few, she noticed, looked almost sad. Perhaps they remembered their own integration, their own surrender. She took a deep breath and spoke clearly. "No." The word hung in the air. For a moment, nothing happened. The aliens did not react. Perhaps they had not understood. Then Counselor Morthax laughed. "No? What does that mean, no? You are rejecting one of the terms? Which one? We can negotiate on minor points." "I am not rejecting one term," Yuna interrupted. Her voice was calm and steady. "I am rejecting all of them. Every single one. Humanity will not sign this treaty." Now the chamber reacted. Whispers spread through the crowd like waves through water. Aliens turned to each other, speaking in a dozen languages. Some were confused. Some were shocked. A few were laughing, as if they had just heard a wonderful joke. High Arbiter Velith did not laugh. His glowing eyes narrowed and his ancient face grew hard. "Perhaps you do not understand, Admiral. This is not a request. Every species that joins the galactic community accepts these terms. There is no alternative. Then we will not join the galactic community." "That is not an option," Morthax snarled. He rose from his throne, his red skin darkening with anger. "You do not get to choose. You accept our terms, or you are declared a rogue civilization. Your ships will be hunted. Your worlds will be blockaded. You will be alone in the darkness, surrounded by enemies." Yuna looked at him without fear. "We have been alone in the darkness before. For thousands of years, we looked up at the stars and saw only emptiness. We survived, we grew, we learned, and then we reached out and found the galaxy was full of life." She paused. "But if the price of joining that life is giving up everything we are, then we would rather be alone." The chamber exploded with noise. Aliens were shouting, arguing, demanding explanations. Guards moved closer to the human delegation, their weapons ready. On the council thrones, some members looked angry, others looked worried. A few looked at Yuna with something that might have been respect. Velith raised his hand again. Slowly, the chamber fell silent. "You are making a terrible mistake," he said. His voice was quiet now, almost sad. "Your species is young. You do not understand the dangers of this galaxy. There are threats beyond your imagination, ancient enemies, cosmic disasters, wars that could destroy entire civilizations. The Council protects its members from these threats. Without us, you will not survive." "Perhaps," Yuna agreed, "or perhaps we will find our own way." "We do not ask for your protection, High Arbiter. We only ask for our freedom." "Freedom." Morthax spat the word like it tasted bad. "What good is freedom when you are dead? We have 1,000 ships. You have what, 50? 100? We could destroy your entire species in a week. You could try. The words were simple, but the way Una said them made even Morthax hesitate. There was no anger in her voice, no fear, no pride, just a simple statement of fact. Taiho stepped forward, his tablet raised. If I may speak, High Arbiter, humanity does not wish for war. We have not come here to threaten or insult the Council. We have come to propose a different relationship. He touched his tablet, and a new document appeared on the chamber's main screen. This is our counter-proposal, full sovereignty for humanity, equal standing with all other species, mutual non-aggression, open trade. We keep our territory, our military, our right to develop our own technology. In exchange, we offer friendship, cooperation, and peace. Morthax laughed again, but this time the sound was hollow. You are offering nothing. You are demanding everything. We are offering what any free people would offer, Una replied. The chance to work together as equals, not as masters and servants, not as rulers and subjects, but as partners. She looked up at the 12 thrones, meeting each council member's eyes in turn. For 40,000 years, you have built your power by making others small. You have taken their land, their weapons, their dreams, and they have accepted it because they were afraid, because they believed they had no choice. Her voice rose, filling the chamber. But there is always a choice, and today, humanity chooses to stand. Not because we are stronger than you, we are not. Not because we are smarter or braver or better, but because some things matter more than survival. Dignity matters. Freedom matters. The right to shape our own future matters. She stepped back. That is our answer. We reject your terms. All of them. And if that makes us enemies of the Council, then so be it. For a long moment, no one spoke. The chamber was completely silent. Even the guards had stopped moving. Every alien in the room was staring at the small group of humans standing on the central platform. Then High Arbiter Velith rose. His face was unreadable. You have made your choice, Admiral Park, and choices have consequences. The Council will discuss your answer. Until then, you are ordered to leave Convergence Prime and return to your own space. You have 72 hours. Una bowed. We will be gone within the hour. As she turned to leave, she spoke one last time. Her words were not loud, but somehow they reached every corner of the chamber. You have ruled this galaxy for 40,000 years by making others small. But we are not here to be small. Remember that. Then she walked out. The doors closed behind her. And across the galaxy, everything began to change. The news spread faster than light. Within days, every corner of the galaxy knew what the humans had done. A young species, barely capable of traveling between stars, had looked at the Galactic Council and said no. It was impossible. It was insane. It was the most exciting thing that had happened in centuries. On Earth, reactions were mixed. Some people celebrated in the streets, proud that humanity had refused to kneel. Others were terrified, waiting for the Council's warships to appear in the sky. World leaders demanded explanations. News channels ran endless debates about what would happen next. Admiral Una Park had no time for politics. She was busy preparing for war. The Council has voted for sanctions, Taiho reported, reading from his tablet. No trade with human worlds, no travel through Council space, no diplomatic recognition. We are officially a rogue civilization. Una nodded. She had expected this. What about military action? Not yet. The Council is divided. Morthax and his faction want to attack immediately, but others are hesitant. They have never faced a species that refused the treaty. They do not know what to do. Good. Confusion is our friend. Una turned to a holographic map of human space. 50 colonies spread across a dozen star systems. Not much compared to the vast territories of the Council, but it was home. We need to prepare our defenses. And we need allies. General Sunho Cha stepped forward. He was an older man with gray hair and a face full of scars. He had fought in Earth's last great war, 30 years ago. Now he commanded all of humanity's military forces. "Our fleet is ready," he said. 300 ships, including the new Defender-class cruisers. We cannot match the Council in numbers, but our tactics are different. Our weapons are different. They have never fought anyone like us. Because no one has ever been foolish enough to fight them, Taiho muttered. Perhaps, Sunho agreed. Or perhaps no one has ever been brave enough. While Sunho prepared the military, Taiho worked on a different kind of battle. He spent his days and nights in communication with aliens across the galaxy. Not council members, but ordinary people from 100 different species. Traders, scientists, artists, dreamers. People who had lived under council rule for generations and had learned to accept it. "I have been talking to the younger species," he told Yuna one evening. "The ones who were integrated in the last few thousand years. They remember what it was like to be free. And many of them are unhappy with the council. Unhappy enough to help us? Not yet. They are afraid. The council has crushed every rebellion for 40,000 years. But they are watching us. If we survive, if we show that resistance is possible," Taiho allowed himself a small smile. "Then things might change." Meanwhile, Ambassador Doyun Baek had become famous. He was a young man, barely 30, who had joined Yuna's delegation almost by accident. Now he was the face of human defiance. Independent journalists from across the galaxy came to interview him. They were not council members. They were aliens from small worlds and neutral stations who made their living by telling stories the council did not want told. Doyun spoke to all of them. He explained humanity's position in simple terms. He talked about freedom and dignity and the right of every species to choose its own future. His words were translated into 100 languages and spread to billions of listeners. "We are not enemies of the council," he said in one famous interview. "We are not trying to start a war. We simply believe that there is a better way, a way where all species can live together as equals, a way where power is earned through cooperation, not demanded through fear." The interviewer, a small creature with too many eyes, asked the question everyone wanted answered. "But what if the council attacks? What will you do?" Doyun paused before answering. "Then we will defend ourselves, and we will hope that the rest of the galaxy is watching. Because if the council destroys us for wanting to be free, then every other species should ask themselves, what happens when they want the same thing?" The interview was seen by more beings than any message in galactic history. 3 weeks after the rejection, the council made its move. Councillor Morthax had finally convinced enough members to authorize military action. Not a full invasion, not yet, but a blockade. A show of force to remind humanity of its place. The blockade fleet was enormous. 200 warships, each one carrying weapons that could destroy cities. They gathered at the edge of human space like storm clouds on the horizon. General Sunho deployed his forces to meet them. His ships were smaller, fewer, and less powerful, but his crews were determined. They had spent their whole lives dreaming of the stars. They were not going to give up those dreams without a fight. The two fleets faced each other across the void. No weapons fired, no one moved. It was a test of wills, a question of who would blink first. Days passed. The tension grew. On Earth, people watched the news and held their breath. On alien worlds, billions of beings wondered if they were about to witness the end of a species. Then Admiral Yuna Park did something unexpected. She ordered a single ship to leave the human fleet and fly toward the blockade. It was a small diplomatic vessel, unarmed and unprotected, and she was on board. "I have a message for the council," she transmitted to the alien warships. "One that I must deliver in person." The blockade commander was confused. This was not how enemies behaved. This was not how anyone behaved. After hours of debate, he allowed her to approach. Yuna flew alone into the heart of the enemy fleet, surrounded by ships that could destroy her in an instant. But her hands were steady on the controls, and her heart was calm. She had one last card to play. And she was betting everything on it. The flagship of the blockade fleet was called the Eternal Mandate. It was a massive vessel, over 3 kilometers long, covered with weapons and armor that had been perfected over thousands of years. Standing on its bridge, surrounded by alien officers, Yuna felt very small, but she had learned something important in her years as a soldier. Size was not the same as strength. High Arbiter Velith was waiting for her. He had traveled from Convergence Prime to witness this moment personally. His ancient face showed no emotion as Yuna was brought before him. "Admiral Park," he said, "you continue to surprise us, flying alone into our fleet, requesting an audience. Either you are very brave or very foolish." "Perhaps both," Yuna replied. "But I did not come here to discuss my character. I came to discuss the future of the galaxy." Velith raised an eyebrow. "The future of the galaxy? You represent one small species with a handful of planets. What could you possibly have to say about the future of the galaxy?" Yuna smiled. It was a calm smile, the smile of someone who knew something others did not. "May I show you something, High Arbiter?" She pulled out a small device, a communication tablet that Taiho had given her before she left. She touched the screen, and a list of names appeared. Species names, 17 of them. "These are species that have been integrated into the Council over the last 5,000 years, Yuna explained. "The Valorians, the Kesseth, the Morath, and 14 others. Do you recognize them?" Velith's eyes narrowed. "Of course. They are loyal members of the galactic community. They are prisoners." Yuna's voice hardened. "They accepted your treaty because they had no choice. They gave up their freedom because they were afraid. But they have never forgotten what they lost." She touched the screen again. A message appeared. A declaration signed by representatives of all 17 species. "My colleague, Dr. Taiho Kim, has spent the last 3 weeks talking to these species, secretly, carefully, and he has found something remarkable. They are tired of tribute, tired of restrictions, tired of being told what they can and cannot do." Velith leaned forward. "What are you saying?" "I am saying that if the Council attacks humanity, these 17 species have agreed to support us. Not with weapons, not yet, but with resources, information, and public statements of solidarity." The bridge fell silent. The alien officers looked at each other with alarm. Velith's face, for the first time, showed something other than calm certainty. "You are bluffing," he said. "I am not." Yuna met his eyes. "Your council has ruled through fear for 40,000 years. But fear only works if people believe they are alone. You showed them that resistance meant death. You showed them that no one would help them if they stood up." She spread her hands. "We have shown them something different. We have shown them that one species was willing to say no, and now they are asking themselves, what if we all said no together?" Velith was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different. Older, more tired. "You cannot win this war, Admiral. Even with 17 species behind you, the Council's military power is overwhelming." "I know," Yuna agreed. "We would probably lose. Millions would die, maybe billions. It would be a disaster for everyone, including the Council." "Then why?" "Because there is another option." Yuna took a step forward. "For 40,000 years, you have maintained order through control. But control is not the same as peace. Control requires constant force, constant watching, constant punishment. It is exhausting, and it breeds resentment. She pulled up another document on her tablet. This is a proposal for a new kind of council, one where all species have equal voice, old and new, large and small, where tribute is replaced by voluntary cooperation, where sovereignty is respected, where power is shared instead of hoarded. Impossible, one of the alien officers muttered. The ancient species would never agree. Some would not, Yuna admitted, but some might. Some of your oldest members are tired too. They have seen the same arguments, the same rebellions, the same suppressions for thousands of years. They know this cannot continue forever. She looked at Valeth. The question is not whether change is coming. The question is whether it comes through war or through choice. We are offering you a choice. Veleth studied her for a long time. His glowing eyes seemed to see through her, into her thoughts, her fears, her hopes. Finally, he spoke. You are an remarkable species, remarkable and infuriating. He almost smiled. Very well, I will bring your proposal to the council. I make no promises, but I will give it a fair hearing. The debate lasted for weeks. It was the most contentious discussion in council history. Morthax and his faction demanded war. Others called for compromise. Some, to everyone's surprise, supported the human proposal entirely. In the end, the council fractured. The old unity, built on fear and tradition, could not survive the questions humanity had raised. A new charter was proposed. Not exactly what Yuna had suggested, but close. Much closer than anyone had expected. The vote was narrow, 7-5. The new charter passed. Humanity was granted full standing in the galactic community. Not as servants or subjects, but as equals. The first species in history to achieve this without submission. 1 month later, Yuna stood on the observation deck of Convergence Prime. The station looked different now. Less imposing, more hopeful. Ships from dozens of species flew past the windows, their crews looking toward a future that had seemed impossible just months ago. Ambassador Doyun Bayek joined her at the window. Do you think it will last? He asked. The peace? Yuna watched a human freighter dock beside an alien cruiser. Their crews waved to each other through the windows. Peace always has to be rebuilt, she said. Every generation has to choose it again. That is not a weakness. That is the point. Peace is not something you achieve once and keep forever. It is something you work for every single day. Doyun nodded slowly. And if they had called our bluff? If Veleth had ordered the attack? Yuna turned to look at him. Her eyes were calm, but there was steel beneath the surface. Who said it was a bluff? Doyun stared at her. Then he laughed. A surprised, genuine laugh. You really would have fought. We really would have fought. Yuna looked back at the stars. And we might have lost. But some things are worth fighting for, even when you cannot win. Freedom is one of them. Dignity is another. She smiled. We did not come to this galaxy to be small. We came to be human. And humans, for better or worse, do not know how to kneel. Outside the window, the stars burned bright, and among them, humanity was finally home.